welcome to Miss Cindy's Kitchen. Have you ever wanted to try a homemade pot pie but not know how to make it? Well, I decided to try making a chicken pot pie, and I found Pillsbury's shortcut recipe because I had pie crust that got on a really good deal and I wanted to make a pot pie. And previously when I bought these, they had the recipe printed on the box, but they no longer had that on there. So I looked it up and I found a recipe for a easy chicken pot pie. So it calls for 2 cups of cooked chicken and 1 bag of frozen vegetables. However, I had canned, so we have 1 can of mixed veg, 1 can of corn, and it called for roasted chicken gravy. I had roasted turkey, so it's just a little bit of a substitution, no big deal. And I cooked 4 chicken breasts on the stove because 2 are going to be part of this dinner and then 2 are going to be part of another dinner I'm making tomorrow night. So I'm going to chop it all up and then I will save some for tomorrow and then put the 2 cups in this measure here. This actually has a 2-cup measure on here. So anyway, it has 2, 4, 6. So there's 2, 4, 6, 8. So I'm going to measure 2 cups of chicken. And then I will add everything else to here, mix it all up, and put it in the pie pan after, of course, I put the pie shell in there. So let me go ahead and chop up the chicken. And basically, I simmered these on low for about an hour in some chicken broth. So I think I'll save the chicken broth and make something out of it, like maybe soup or chicken and dumplings. So I'm just going to chop up the chicken. You can use whatever chicken you have on hand. You can get a rotisserie from the grocery store, from Costco, wherever you get your whole cooked chickens from, or just like I did, cook up some chicken breast. I just put it in a small stock pot and cooked it for an hour, or however long it takes for the chicken to get fully cooked, which is basically when the chicken breast starts to loosen up and fall apart. It's pretty much cooked. I prefer cooking it in broth because it gives it more flavor, because chicken breasts can be like a blank slate. They can either be flavorful, taking on the flavors of whatever you make, or they can be bland if you don't season them. I remember on that 70s show they were trying to get Red Foreman to eat healthier and they gave him boiled chicken. That's just gross. You can have healthy chicken with a lot of flavor just by cooking it in broth. And right now Dahlia is fussing at us because we had to take up her food dish because she was gulping and crunching to her heart's content while we were trying to make our food here. So she can just wait a few minutes.
Oh, she also sees all that yummy chicken and she's like, well, feed me.
Feed me, mommy.
Feed me.
So anyway, whenever you make dinner, you can get yourself a little bit ahead for another meal by doubling up the meat that you cook and saving some for the next meal. And that's about 2 cups of chicken. So that'll be good for this dinner. And I'm going to put the remainder in this container. And this way, we're going to show you how you can get a little bit ahead just by doubling up a little bit on one of your ingredients or the food prep while you've already got your food out. You can get yourself a little bit ahead. And this is kind of a semi-homemade dinner because you're taking ingredients that you most likely have on hand, be it fridge, freezer, or pantry. It's always nice to make meals without having to go to the store to buy something.
Is there a particular way to cut, chicken? Because, they say that the cut beef, you want to go against the grain. Is there any way to cook
That's pretty
chicken?
much it. I try to go across against the fibers of the chicken breast. Lengthwise didn't seem to work as well as cutting it crossways, so I decided to try crossways this second round of chicken breast. So We're going to make chicken divan tomorrow night, and I know that we have had that previously
Oh, that was
on
delicious.
this episode. On a previous episode, however, the next time I make it, I'm not going to goof up on the amount of rice I could put in there, because I inadvertently used raw rice rather than cooked rice when I made it. So we had to adjust the amount of broth in it to compensate. So we're gonna have a lot of chicken left over, but to conserve energy, I figured I'd make twice as much as I needed. So all right. Let's put all that together. Put that over here so Dahlia doesn't jump up and steal it. Let me wash my hands real quick. Scooch. All right. So our next step is going to be to open up the pie crusts. And you always want to let your pie crust sit out for at least 30 minutes to an hour so it can come to room temperature, because it makes the dough more pliable. Pliable means you can move the dough around and it won't stick to itself. It's still going to stick to itself a little bit, but this will make it a little easier to handle. And then lay it in the pie pan. And since this is a deep dish, we're going to have to draw the crust up a little bit to the edges and over the sides, because when you make a pie of any sort, you want to have the top crust seal to the bottom crust, so that way the filling doesn't seep out and make a mess. So we're going to have our 2 cups of chicken, and I have a can of corn, because I was going to use 2 cans of mixed veg. However, we obviously used it up because we didn't have it. So as you can see, this is pretty easy. You have the cooked chicken, which you could have left over from a previous meal, canned veg or frozen veg. The frozen veg would have to be thawed. And let me get a little scraper. This is a jar of gravy. The alternate version for a pot pie is to make a roux on the stove, which is kind of how I started the macaroni and cheese last week that I made.
That was good.
Oh yeah, it was delicious. And I'm going to add in just a smidge of garlic salt, because I like a lot of flavor in our food, and some garlic and herb, black pepper, and sea salt. It's just a nice seasoning blend. And it calls for thyme, and yes, you can get thyme in a bottle at the discount store. So this is a 1/4 cup of thyme, and a little in the pie pan by accident is fine. And some onion powder. I like onion. The recipe just calls for the thyme in addition to the other ingredients. However, for seasoning, we like our food seasoned. We don't like bland food. Alright, so we're just going to mix this all up. We're using a clear mixing pitcher so you all can see the yumminess. And again, ideally this would be mixed veg, 2 cans, but we're making do with what we have on hand. So get it nice and mixed. And then we're going to dump it into the pie crust. And it looks like the chicken is kind of puddled up at one side here, but that's okay.
Now would you just mix it a little bit in the, yeah, like you're doing there.
Yeah, just to disperse the chicken a little bit. So let me go turn the oven on because I forgot to do that. So give me just a second. Oh yeah, move. Okay, so the oven's gonna be at 400. And I'll take the other pie crust and we're going to roll this out over the top. I'm gonna unfurl it a little bit. This is why you have to bring it to room temperature before you work with dough. So that's how you're gonna press it together. And what I'm gonna do is kind of press it into the base crust at the same time as I am kind of crimping it to seal it. It's not an
So that's
exact
how you
science.
crimp it. You take, you press one finger into two.
Yes.
Okay.
You're making good use of your fingers rather than making birds at people while you're driving. All right.
Yeah, but that's always fun too.
Yeah, as long as you can outrun them. All right. And it doesn't have to be pretty. Just make sure you get your top and your bottom crust touching so they can seal. You don't want your filling bubbling over in the oven because it makes a mess. So there we have that. And then take a small knife and just make some slits in the pie crust because you need to be able to vent the steam as the pie cooks in the oven. And this is going to cook about 40 minutes at 400. So once it is done, we will bring you back. And one thing you can do to save your pie crust from browning too fast is to put some foil around the edges.
Oh.
So recipes often say to do this toward the end of cooking time. However, I find it easier to do it at the beginning and then just take it off for about 15 minutes before the pie is done so that the edges can brown.
You just don't want them to over brown. That's what you're
Right.
saying. All right.
You want them to cook, but you don't want them to get, burnt Cajun style because that just doesn't taste as good on pie crust. So now once the oven is warm, we're going to put this in and then we'll bake it and we'll bring you back. So make sure you like and subscribe and share to your friends and give us your feedback. And we'll be back shortly. All right. And our pot pie is done.
Oh, wow.
40 minutes in the oven. And then we're gonna let it cool so we don't have people eating lava. So anyway, I'm gonna let it sit out for about 15, 20 minutes. Let it cool off a little bit and then we'll bring you back for a taste test. All right, and we're back with a hopefully cool enough to eat pot pie.
That looks delicious.
And some fresh cooked beets.
Beets.
We keep it simple around here. We don't need to fancy up our vegetables. We just scrub them and clean them and cook them. All right, I'm making a mess out of cutting up this pot pie, but that's okay. See, look,
Well, that should come out pretty good.
get up close, zoom in.
Okay.
Doesn't that smell yummy? You can smell the
does.
thyme in it.
Yeah.
Speaking of time, it's late at night and everybody's starving. We had a yard sale today, and oh my goodness, people come early for yard sales. All right, so there you go.
And it's Logan. Hey, Logan.
Ready to dig into some pot pie. Hopefully it won't burn my mouth.
Hopefully it's not lava temperature.
Mmm. It was really good. You can get some of the crust too. 'Cause I just got the innards.
The innards.
Delicious.
There's that face. Yeah.
Well, thank you again for joining us. And please like and subscribe and share to your friends and give us your feedback and let us know if there's any other foods or recipes you'd like us to try. So come back again soon.
Thank you for watching Miss Cindy's Kitchen. To get more recipes like this one, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell for notifications when new videos are uploaded. Share it out to your friends, family, neighbors, and leave us a comment to let us know how this recipe worked for you. And don't forget to hit that like button. Again, thank you for watching Miss Cindy's Kitchen.